There we go. My mic was, I had to unplug and replug my mic to rearrange it a little bit, and it caused it to not work. So I needed to do a little thing. Hey, Cray. So if you're wondering about the title, I need to go grocery shopping later and stock up on stuff to make my meals for the week. I have no idea what I want to make. I just am like out of ideas. So if you have ideas for something I can like make like a whole bunch of and then live off leftovers for a week, it's fairly cheap. Throw ideas at me. So what we got? Sorry, I'm also eating bread while I'm doing this. I got my Pip stuff, so pay it forward, which Acre is the lead on. This was from a Kickstarter last year, so I got that, and I got my, where did I put my notebooks? They're right here. So I got my Story Supply Co. pocket notebooks, which I haven't opened yet because I have a backlog of notebooks, and the ink, and I haven't even swatched it because this came here on like, got here on like Monday, Tuesday, I don't know. The week has been crazy town. It's just sat there until today. So we're going to swatch this and do the review of it. And then we're also going to do Athena Eternal Blue, which, let me get that out. It's in my baggie of doom. There we are. Athena Eternal Blue, which is the last one in this like miscellaneous baggie of weird vials, so I'll be glad to have done all those in there. So yeah, we're gonna swatch. Well, I'll move these over. I don't know, these are gonna end up going in like my backlog of like not Piff, but pocket notebook doom stuff. Now I just never mind. Okie dokie. So we're gonna swatch it. This is getting cards out of my coloring. We'll see what it looks like. I've seen varying reports of what it looks like. Some it looks like orangey golden red thing, and some it looks like weak sauce, like I don't know, like diluted ketchup. So we'll see what I see. That's very pretty. This is more what I was expecting. And I realized my rinsing thing is out, so I thought this had water in it. It did not. Let me go get it. Yeah. I didn't actually, Alex, I didn't know if you had tuned in just because you saw the title or because you actually could. Plume with an E. Thought so because it was French. Okay. So I'm just gonna let that dry. Well, I don't know why I'm capping this. I'm gonna do a review of this first, but just as it's drying, I don't seem to have. This looks much more like what I expected. I don't know. All the swatches I had seen were so different. I wasn't, and like writing staples, I wasn't sure what I would get. So now I got it. It's coming across a slightly more red. On the screen than I'm seeing in real life. Like the real life is a touch more yellow. Huh, okay, cool. Wasn't sure like where you saw the notification, if it was like the Twitch one or you saw me cross-posting. Because the cross-posting will tell you the title, but the Twitch notification does not. Well, I get to choose what goes in the Piff notification, or the mobile notification, but I usually just keep that on default. I don't say what it is. So yeah, we're gonna now, got my little, I should probably move these. These are my little like stuff rinsing thing. I'm trying to move it somewhere where it won't knock it over. There we are. We moved it far away. So we got Heart of Gold, and then we gotta get all my pens. Now I get to ink it up. There we go. There. And if you see this ink and you're like, oh, that's cool, I want that. Unfortunately, this was part of a Kickstarter, like I said, last year, so it's exclusive. You might be able to find someone willing to sell you their bottle or, like, give you a sample or something. Ha! It's like you have pith senses, Alex. It's just like, oh, my someone's unboxing their pith stuff. Senses are tingling. But yeah, so you might be able to find someone that like sell you a bottle, give you a sample. I know some people were not as keen on the ink once they got their actual ink and like swapped it and everything. So I'm sure some people out there are like low-key looking to get rid of their bottles, probably, because that just happens in general when you buy ink off the internet. It doesn't always look like what it looks like in the scans or the reviews. In real life, that's just part of the nature of it. So don't lose hope. Maybe you'll find it. But that's also part of this, is I can see what it looks like in writing. And I can also compare it to things. Ah, that's good to know. So you heard it here first-ish that they have excess of notebooks and ink. So I don't know, I just tried to screw in the really wrong body, so maybe some of it will come up for sale in the future. Who knows? They're still deciding. Heard straight from Alex in this chat. Come. And this is also actually my first Papier Plume ink. No, that's a lie. I have a couple samples of Papier Plume inks that I've kind of used, but like this is my first full bottle. Like I haven't been too into Papier Plume. Like it's been on my radar, but it came on my radar after I was like, oh shit, I got a lot of inks that I haven't even touched. I should cool it on ink buying. Okay, so Heart of Gold. Move that over to the side. And this is actually getting some really nice shading as it's drying. It's still not totally dry yet, but it's interesting. And now I'm seeing like both variants of what I've seen on the internet. Like I'm seeing like the weaker sauce stuff down here where it's like dustier, and the brighter orange stuff up here, orangish red thing. You know what this is reminding me of a little bit? I know it's not dry yet, so this isn't the greatest comparison. But it reminds me a bit of, where is it? KWZ Grapefruit. Grapefruit is a little more orange, but that's what it's reminding me of the most. I guess it could also be compared to Wild Strawberry. Wild Strawberry has a sheen to it that this one doesn't, though. It doesn't have the shading. Yeah, this seems to be a fairly unique-ish shade of ink. Poppy Red's a little weak sauce. Yeah. I also don't have a whole lot of reds, so this is not, like, I might not be the best person to do swab comparisons with, or to do the swab comparisons to find an alternate ink. Okay, I'm going to put that over to the side, and we're going to now test it out and see how it works. I just keep dropping things. My desk is slightly more and slightly less of a mess than usual. Like, I had a big pile of paperwork that I needed to take care of that I did before getting on here. But, like, it's still, like, there's shit everywhere. And falling down. There we go. tell you, I'm eagerly awaiting, like, I'm slowly, like, I'm approaching, I think, halfway my Hippo Noto. Slowly but surely, and it's just like the hand cliff of this notebook being so fat is slowly getting better, which is making my writing better, especially in the bottom parts. Oh, I forgot to do the dry part. Damn. This is okay. And speaking of dry, I can already tell that it's a little touch dry as an ink, because it's already like meh, using in the dry pen, which I think that's well known with Papier Plume inks. At least that's what I have heard. So this could have been expected if this was my like first Papier Plume ink. Spelling, wow. The pygmy hippo does not interest me whatsoever. Part of it is due to the fact that the first Hippo Noto had such a like whack rollout, but also I just learned from having this hippo that like a brick of Tomoe River is just not my thing. It's just not. And so it just is pointless to me. And honestly, I got this Hippo Noto for the ink. Like, you couldn't buy the ink separately. You had to buy it. Only came as a package with the Hippo Noto. So I was like, I guess. And the ones available were cream, and I like creamed paper. So I was like, sure, I'll go for it. But yeah, I have no interest in the ink this time around, so that I'll not going for it. And really, like, this was a late pledge because, like I said, I was really only interested in the ink. But yeah, which I do, I love the ink. I really wish that, like her other exclusive inks, you could buy it separately because I like it that much. Like, I really like Hippo Purple, but it's only available as a bundle with the Hippo Noto. And like I said, I'm not as into this book as much. Like, it doesn't I don't write that much. Like, one of the reasons why I'm doing these ink reviews is to use stuff that was otherwise gathering dust. And the fact that I'm using my Hippo Noto means my Hippo Noto was gathering dust. I tried journaling for a little bit, and journaling has just never been my thing. So it fell off like as expected, and then I was just like, I don't know what else to use it for. And I was like, well, people like seeing, like, Tomoe River is a good, like, paper to do ink reviews with. Like, I decided I wanted to try ink reviews to get me to use my giant backlog of samples that was gathering dust as well, or, like, I wasn't trying them as quickly as I would have liked. Oh, sorry. There we are. And then I was like, well, what papers am I going to use? What notebooks? And then I was like, well, my Hippo Noto's Gathering Dust, and people like seeing Tomoe River. And it's a cream paper, and not a lot of people do cream paper. And then I did the Kikuyo because I had bought a 5-pack of those to be lab notebooks, and then shortly after I bought them, I ended up leaving my graduate program, so what I bought them for no longer existed, so I just had a 5-pack of these notebooks, Gathering Dust. And I had bought that little Rhodia pad that I use to see if that would be a good, like, purse carry, and then I didn't end up using it for that, so that was Gathering Dust. And I'm like, these are all good, like, paper. Like, Tomoe River and Rhodia are standards. And I love Kikuyo and would love to just, like, low-key shove Kikuyo in everyone's faces to let everyone know it exists. So that's what I did. And then I added the shitty paper a couple months ago because I think it was Franklin, Pens and Pictures, was saying, oh, what good, what inks out there are good on shitty paper other than, like, blacks, because there are a bunch of blacks that were well known to be good on shitty paper. And I was like, that's something I could add to my ink reviews real easy, because I had a stack of, like, literally 1 cent Staples notebooks. Like, they were 1 cent during back to school sales that my parents bought me when I started grad school, that have been sitting in my drawer because I was like, what? I don't want these, but I can't, like, refuse. You can't refuse stuff your parents shove at you. So I was like, well, I can use those. And those are really common for, like, high school students. Like, that's a common paper they will find. Like, Aiden's been on here and being like, that paper, it's the bane of my existence, but I have to use it because my teacher wants exactly 8.5 by 11. And if all the 8.5 by 11 paper is shitty, I might as well buy the cheap one. So that's a good guide for them. And like I said, it also uses up the notebooks that have been literally sitting in my drawer for years, gathering dust. And I do not want them. So anyway, that's the story of why I use the papers I use. Because they're what I had and was not using. Like, I was like, I don't want to go out and have to buy things to do ink reviews. This is, like, the whole point is to use my pile of stuff. I don't want to buy new stuff. Where was I? And even though I've been doing this for well over 6 months, I'm still, like, I've, like, barely made a dent in my Hippo Noto. That's at least what it feels like. So this is going to be going for a while. I did use up 1 whole Kikuyo notebook. So I'm on my second one. And I'm, like, maybe halfway into the Staples notebook. The one that I'm almost out of is actually the little Rhodia thing. So I'm gonna switch to a dot pad I have sitting around that also basically is gathering dust. Like, I basically take it to, like, pen shows and pen meets as a standard paper. And that's about it. So I need to use that. Ironically, I'm not that huge a fan of Rhodia, but somehow I just, like, keep having to buy new Rhodia pads or stuff for whatever reason. Don't know why that is. I just keep accumulating them, even though I'm not hot on them. Okay. So even though the swatch is like this like brilliant like orangey red thing, on paper is weak sauce. It is super weak sauce. It's more weak sauce the drier the pen. Because this is orangey, the cream paper might be affecting it, but still, like, even though it was fine to write with the regular, it was a little dry, like I said before. I don't want that color. So I might have to only restrict it to wet pens to get it to be a color that I like. But we'll see how it looks on the whiter papers, because cream paper does tend to affect anything orangey to make it look, it either makes it look really good or really bad. There's no like in between with cream paper and orangey things. Okay, so this is the Kikuyo I was talking about. I love these notebooks, I really do. I like Kikuyo in general. Like I said, I just like low-key, I'm like, here, Kikuyo. Shove it in everyone's faces. It's great. You probably haven't heard of it as much because it doesn't get as much play out in the wider pen community. Even though it's cheaper than Rhodia and has lots of cool rulings. Like this one. It's a dotted line ruling. No one has that. I love the dotted line. Kikuyo Campus article. Papier, Plume, write the thing. There we are. I mean, this is why I do it. Well, no. I do the wet and dry thing because I didn't feel like buying a bunch of, because I didn't feel like buying new pens with nib sizes that I never use. Because I've tried carrying around like fatter nibs, like Western medium and up, and they just gather dust. I don't use them. So I only really have like fine Western fines and down because that's what I use. But I was like, but I want to show variety and I want to have standard pens. I'm like, I can do like wet to dry again because I didn't want to buy new shit to do ink reviews. And it has turned out to be very interesting and useful. So yeah. And I've always been a proponent of everyone's always like, oh yeah, like, just use a finer nib, that'll work better on cheap paper. I'm like, that's not really, this nib width doesn't really affect how much, like, it, like, interacts with the paper. That's more like your personal preference, how fat of a line you want. It's how wet a pen looks has a huge impact on how it affects shitty paper. And just in general, like, how an ink looks. So this is also me generating the data to back up my opinion in the greatest scientific tradition, because that's basically what you do in science, is say, I have an opinion about a thing, how a thing works, which is called a hypothesis in science. And then you do an experiment to try and prove yourself wrong. Or basically generate a bunch of data to prove yourself wrong. But so far I've gotten mixed results. For some inks, the dryness doesn't matter at all with how it looks. And for some, it really does. It's individual to the ink. Like this one, clearly it makes a big difference. Another thing that I've found while doing these reviews is actually, I expected Tomoe River to be the paper that would like tell me, oh, is there shading, sheen, all sorts of fun stuff, like show off the cool properties of the ink. But I've actually found that for sheen, yeah, the Tomoe River like does a great job, but for shading, it really doesn't. At least the stuff in the Hippo Noto. Kikuyo is actually what by far is the best at showing off shading if an ink has shading. Which, I mean, like, as much as I had, like, I'm a fan of Kikuyo, like, I didn't even realize that till doing these reviews. It's something that you only see after, like, comparing lots and lots of things, having lots and lots of data points that are standardized. Again, that's part of why I do this the way I do it. Everything's standard. The only thing that changes is the ink. And technically the page, but, like, there's only so much variable control I can have. Anyway, back to the title of this stream. Please give me food ideas, because, like I said, I'm going grocery shopping after this, and it's grocery shopping for the week, and I need to cook something or a couple things that I can, like, live off the leftovers, like do a big pot of it or something. I'm one person, so, like, even, like, if it's, like, would feed a normal family for one meal, that's going to feed me for 4 days. Like, 4 or 5 days, depending on how big it is. I do have some food restrictions because of my gastrointestinal issues. So I can't do whole wheat or brown rice or anything with, like chunky nuts or seeds. And I want to stay away from raw vegetables. All of those things scrape against the sides of my colon, which are basically have no mucus layer, and will riddle me with ulcers, because my immune system decided that's how it's going to react to things it doesn't like. That would go to my Midwestern roots. My whole family's from Michigan, so tater tot casserole would be, like, very appropriate. Actually, a casserole sounds really good. I haven't made a casserole in a while. Give me casserole, Rex. Other than tater tot casserole, like, in general. There's 3 more of you watching, at least according to my little counter thing. If you're bots, clearly you can't say anything. But thank you for saying that, Alex. Because I knew I wanted something, but, like, a casserole, I realized, oh yes, that sounds great. A casserole. I can do that. Might just Google casserole recipes in addition to tater tot casserole. And tater tot casserole would not have any of my things on my no-go list because it is trash food, and my diet restrictions really point me towards trash food. Like, I can have, like, actually the other day I had, because shit got crazy, I had no choice but McDonald's burger and fries, and it was cheap and I could eat it. I wanted to go to Burger King, but Burger King puts sesame seeds on their buns, and that's a no-go for me right now. Like, even seeds that tiny could really irritate my colon and cause bad things to happen. But yeah, that Sunday was Like, I thought I was only going to be out working like 10 a.m. to like 3, which then I only needed like one meal. But then I ended up being out until 7 because there was a last minute session that got scheduled because like there were last minute conflicts, and I was like, I could refuse this, but I need the money and I don't want this kid to go without tutoring because he really needs it. But yeah, so I needed more food, and that's what the McDonald's drive-thru is for, because I could eat that while driving to the kid, and it was $3 for a decent meal. Well, not decent, but like filling meal. Crock-pot's even better because, though I will say my crock-pot is, so most crock-pots nowadays are like long and not that high. I have a very old crock-pot that I got from my grandparents that's probably at least from the 70s. That is a smaller diameter, but very tall. So that might affect the crock-pot casserole, because, like, doing it in the crock-pot, because most casseroles you want them high surface area, not very tall. Anyway. Yeah, no, this is still weak sauce in pretty much everything but the wet pen. Like, I would not enjoy writing with this ink unless it was in the wet pen. I mean, it's good to know. That's the other reason why, while I'm working through a backlog of samples I've had, whenever I've gotten new stuff in, like this one, I prioritize it, so I try it out. I could do more layers. That's true. That's what I do for a crockpot baked ziti. That's technically, like, the picture in the recipe was like a normal-ish crockpot, and mine it was like, we're just gonna have more layers. Aqua, what are you doing? Aqua's in the blanket on my bed right now, and I thought she was sleeping, but then I turned around to grab this notebook, and I looked and she was just like jabbing up at the, like, I could see my blanket going like lump, like pushing up, like she was like pushing at it, which she does sometimes to like basically like make it easier for her to move around underneath the blanket. I don't know, but yeah. And I tell you, even though I didn't start off with the shitty paper, as part of this, that's been one of the most enjoyable parts of these reviews. Well, not enjoyable, but entertaining parts, because it's such a crapshoot. What paper is, like, what inks are going to be great on this paper and what are going to, like, really suck. And sometimes it's just, like, thrilling to be like, oh, look, it worked so well. And sometimes you flip it over and look at the bleed through, and it's just hilarious because it's so bad. Okay. So let's see what this one does. Like I said, it's a complete crapshoot usually. So I have no idea what this is going to do. I forgot to do the Rhodia. Oh well. I'll do that after I do this. This might be a better order to do things in, just because then I don't have to like refine my place in the article that I'm transcribing multiple times. Okay. there's like an extra squiggle in that M, but I don't care. Because it's already made, you know what I mean. I wonder... I'm going back to food now. Now I'm thinking like, yes, casseroles sound amazing. And like, I'm definitely going to look and see if tater tot casseroles doable for me. Like when I look up the recipes. Because I also don't know how much frozen tater tots are at Kroger. They might be obscenely expensive. And like I said, finances are a little tight right now, so I'm, you know, saving where I can. But I'm thinking now something like with a spinach casserole. Because I said no raw veggies, but cooked veggies are fine. For the most part. I gotta usually try them out first. To make sure that my system won't react. But cooked spinach and cooked broccoli are fine. So I'm thinking maybe like a spinach casserole because I need that iron content. Because, yeah, just long story, but like I'm basically on the multivitamin I'm on right now. My old one had iron, but the new one doesn't. And yeah, so I need to get more iron from my food, and spinach has a lot of iron. So some sort of spinach casserole. I was in the middle of a word and I just legislate. Okay, so now I'm gonna look a little bit closer. Yeah, it looks like shit with the wet pen, but they usually do. Very few inks look okay with the wet pen on the shitty paper. The feathering on here looks pretty standard. That's actually really bad bleed through. That's worse than normal. Sorry, doing my best Brian Goulet impression here. Just loud coughs on the video. Yeah, the wet pen, the bleed throughs, that, like I said, that's worse than normal. The rest of it's pretty standard. But the color's still not, like, I wouldn't want to put this ink in pens with that kind of flow. So it's like defeats the, like, where I like the colors in the wet pen, that has the worst behavior on the shitty paper. So this is probably not, if you were in a shitty paper only situation, this ink is not going to work for you probably, unless you like that pale look. If you like how it looks in the pale weak sauce, then go for it. Okay, last one. This is probably because it was under stuff. Why I forgot about the rodeo pad temporarily. I will say the more I'm using it, the more it even feels a little bit dry in the regular pen. So this just feels like a drier ink. So you'd probably want to use it in a wet pen anyway, just to get the optimal flow situation going. That's also the best color situation, so... So yeah. Interesting. It looks more orangey on Rhodia. It looks different on the Rhodia compared to the other papers. So I wonder when this ink was being developed if it was only tested on Rhodia. Because as much as, well, I talked a lot with, about this time last year actually with He Who Must Not Be Named, when he was talking about developing this ink at the Baltimore Pen Show, because working the PIF table. And he said like the goal was to get a red with like a gold halo, and it was orangey or something. And he was like, and so I don't know, maybe he only like tested it on Rhodia with development. Knowing him, that's about the most attention to detail he would do. So yeah, interesting. Yeah, I like this color in the wet pen. The rest of these, this is better on the Rhodia. Still not totally into it. Wet pen though, that looks great, which is interesting because it's like in complete like it looks completely different. Like it's on like in the big swab versus in the writing samples. This is why you provide writing samples. Don't just go on the swabs, because I have inks that even like match, like the color matches the swab, but for some reason I don't like it as a writing color, but I like it as a swab color, even though it's the exact same color. You don't have any of this variance, and it's just like that happens with some inks. That's why you test it out. Yeah. So I'm putting this to the side. I'm gonna go, well actually I'm gonna empty these and then I'm gonna rinse out, go clean out pens, and then I'll come back for the Eternal Blue. But yeah, it's interesting how this is played out. And I've got some Heart of Gold on my desk, because of course I do. As you can see from like all like the other random spots, like this is not the first bit. Yeah, it just rolled away, that's fine. Okay, cool. So I'll be back in like 10-15 minutes. Gonna go clean some pens, and yeah, like I said, I'll be back. Hello there, I'm back. Okay, so now we are going to do, I should probably put this away somewhere. We're going to do, actually, I'm going to assemble the pens first. We're going to do this one, Maruzen, kind of the infamous, if you will, Athena Eternal Blue. People just like go ape shit for this ink. I have tried it a little bit already. A couple months ago I had inked it up in some shark pens and I was like, I don't understand why people are falling over themselves for this ink. But I haven't really tried it all that much, so we'll see how it goes. Then again, a lot of people in the wider pen community go ape shit for lots of like blue tealish inks with like red sheen stuff that I'm just like, and it's nice, but it's not my thing. So we'll see. It might be a case of I just have different ink tastes than the rest of everybody. But we need to find out. Oh no. Okay, I think we got everything. Come on, nib. One of these days I'm going to drop that nib and it's going to go nowhere and then I will have to get a new custom Heritage 92 and it'll be very sad. But today is not that day. What am I doing? Wrong converter. There we are. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the fact that the Parker converters aren't totally clear, the like dark versus light makes it very easy to just like, yeah, this converter goes here. This was sent to me by Mr. Tommy Song. He sent, like, the package where he sent this was like supposed to just be like Pilot Blue Black because you couldn't get a sample of it. You could only get like the 350 milliliters of it. And I'm like, I don't want that much ink. I don't need that much Pilot Blue Black in my life for just trying it out. And so he was like, cool, I'll send you a sample. Sent me a sample with also these like rare as hell inks in the package as well. And I'm like, okay, thanks Tommy, sure, I'll take it. Because Tommy is a good dude. I also roomed with Tommy for the San Francisco Pen Show. Good roommate, except for the fact that he snores like a freight train, but that's really not his fault. You can't help if you snore. Okay, so let's get the swab out for Eternal Blue. It's in here somewhere. It's in book 1, I think. It's gonna be around here. Yep, okay. So this is Eternal Blue. It's kind of that like tealish blue shade that people go apeshit over. It's with Baltic Memories, Blue of Straw. I actually do have a bottle of Blue Denim. I do like Blue Denim a lot, but it's a slightly different shade than Eternal Blue. And it's got, you can even see from the swab, it's got like red sheen, and it's got some shading. People just love this stuff. Yeah. And it's got, I'd say probably the closest ones. The Deepwater Black Blue is pretty close. Verdigris, Baltic Memories. Verdigris doesn't have the sheen, but Baltic Memories certainly does. So yeah. Like I said, the infamous Maruzen Athena Eternal Blue. So we'll see how it works. Echo, what are you doing? Echo's doing the same like pressy up thing on the blanket. It's just weird bird. Oh yeah, even looking at this more as it's dried, it's like, ugh. Sorry, Alex. The hard and cold is not what I expected it to be. That's not your fault. But, yeah. So this is... Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah. Hello there, new person. That's true, because you're not the one shipping it. You're basically administering it from afar. I never thought about that. The fact that you've never actually seen the PIF stuff. I hope you get some of it at some point for all this work you've put in, unless you don't want it. That's fair. Okay, where was I in copying this article? But yes, what's your name? Go Dappy. That's... I respect that username. But yeah. So what we're doing here is... For GoDappy, what we're doing is I'm reviewing pens and paper. I do this usually on Mondays, but it might be moving to Thursdays more regularly now. Yeah, and so I'm reviewing inks. And so what I'm doing is I'm writing with them with a couple standard pens that I use to review all my inks and standard papers. And we see how I like them. And where was I in... Oh, and what I'm writing is I'm copying articles from my local newspaper. So already this ink... One of the reasons I didn't like it when I used it before is because, I don't know, it seemed dry, but now that I'm writing with it, that was probably because I had it in a janky shark pen. Love the shark pens because they're $1 and they're sharks. But yeah, the nibs can be hit or miss because they're $1. So now that I'm using this in actual, like, vetted pens, I'm like, holy shit, this is a really wet ink. This is a pleasure to write with, even in a dry writing ink. So when you say, Alex, that you're split on that, split on, like, if you want some stuff, or if you should get stuff for all the work you put in, because I understand that it's volunteer. I totally understand not wanting to take stuff from a thing you're volunteering time to. Wow, my handwriting went to crap with this. Like, it was so good in the previous ink. Let's see. Any proposals? But yeah. So we'll see. I'll probably keep my bottle. I honestly don't know with the Papier Plume, not Papier Plume, the Piff notebooks, if I'll keep them, and that's nothing on Papier Plume. It's just since I backed that Kickstarter, I've found, not Papier Plume, Story Supply, geez, I cannot remember the names of things, but with the Story Supply pocket notebooks, nothing against Story Supply, well, kind of. I've discovered that I'm not a huge fan of their paper. I know a lot of people are, but it doesn't do it for me. And I don't really use pocket notebooks. So I feel like they would be lost on me. But they're also super pretty. And shitty paper and not using pocket notebooks hasn't caused me to sell other of my pocket notebooks that are pretty. And I keep them just because they're pretty. So they might just go in that I'll never use this, but it's pretty pile. Yeah, this is a joy to use. I think you have done enough work, especially considering the trash fire that was a couple months ago with Piff, to warrant the $20 worth of stuff that is the notebook and pack of notebooks and the ink. I don't think anyone would blame you for that. It's just if you would feel icky doing so. So I completely understand that. Like I said, I don't think the community would blame you. And I don't know what's going forward with Piff. That's up to you if you guys want to continue that, or if you like want to do it separately. Through legislative. Where was I? There we are. Because I will say that basically in the past like year or so, I've noticed that the Pen Collectors of America, especially with their pens for kids, like those tables at pen shows seem to like, they like saw what Piff was doing, were like, that's a good idea, and so now they've like picked up on that and seem to be it still says offline. Okay, I should be back now. But that means that I'm not going to be able to easily export this to YouTube. Terrible. Jeez. Sorry, I'm now lamenting because when that happens, that means the video has split. And it's not gonna, that means now I have a video in pieces, which means in order to export one video up to YouTube, I have to now download all the pieces, stitch them together, and re-upload to YouTube, which takes a couple hours. Mostly it's wait time. But still, I still have to like babysit that and have my computer on for hours versus if it's one video, I can just hit the export to YouTube button on Twitch and it does it in like Not very long. And it does it all on Twitch's servers. Or, like, not my stuff. It might have that on the back end. I actually didn't know that it had a Stitcher app thing. That's good to know. I might look into that. That might be better than me downloading it, stitching it together manually, and putting it back and having to re-upload it. Because that's what I've basically been doing. It's not hard. It just, because I have to download and re-upload, that takes a while. Versus it. Yeah, who knows? YouTube does weird stuff sometimes. Oh, I shouldn't say YouTube. I should say Google does weird stuff. Sorry, I'm like, where was I? Equal Rights Amendment. There we are. Support. Yeah, Google is one to just like axe projects at random, it seems like. Which just have like wide spattering consequences. But keep other things going way longer than they should. Like, let's ask Google Reader. But then just hold on to Google Plus for ages. It's to the point where, like, if it's a Google product, I learned not to rely on it, like, wholeheartedly. Unless it's something like Gmail. And I will say I do use Google Calendar. But, like, Gmail and Google Calendar are basically, like, two where I don't think they're gonna go away. Because that's part of, like, their G Suite. Oh, no. Google Plus is gone. It is now gone. But they kept it on for so long when it was just, like, floundering and dead. When it was, like, everyone's like, why isn't Google axed it? But yet they axe popular things? I don't know. Yeah. This ink is delightfully wet. Like, this is really lovely to use. Like, even for a Sailor ink, most Sailor inks are pretty wet and good to use. This is better than normal. I won't say it's better than other inks of the same color category. Like, I'm not sure this has significantly different or better performance than, like, KWZ Baltic Memories, which I did a couple weeks ago, and was also stupidly wet. And a lot easier to get a hold of and less expensive than this stuff, unless you're in Japan. If you're in Japan, this stuff is actually fairly easy to get a hold of. If you're anywhere else, it is hard to get this ink. Because you can only buy it in person at Maruzen. They do not do online shipping, so you can't even buy it internationally. Well, you can, but you have to pay a go-between service, like White Rabbit or something. or buy it off of eBay, where the eBayer has gone to buy it in person. And then, you know, there's a surcharge on that. So it's like 40 something dollars, I think. Yeah, no, this is one of those where like I'm reviewing it. So if you're not in Japan, it's either you need to have a friend that's going to Japan and they'll bring some back for you, which that does happen in the community. It's like, I'm going to Japan. Anyone want Athena Eternal Blue? They do have a bottle limit. Like, you can't buy like 10 of them at a time. I think you can only buy like 2. I have not been to Japan. This is me just having witnessed other people performing the good deed. But yeah, otherwise this is a very hard to get a hold of ink. Like I said, this is you weren't here for the beginning of the stream, but like when I know I did say that Tommy, my friend Tommy, he sent me a sample of another ink and was like, yeah, well, no, this ink is very, so Maruzen is a big department store chain in Japan, and from my understanding, a lot of things in like specialty shops in Japan don't do online sales, or it's Japan only, which I mean, you have a lot of shops in the US or like merch or like small makers or stuff that don't ship internationally. They only ship domestically. That's like not uncommon. And especially for like a big department store. To detail 2 issues. But yeah. So they're doing just fine because they're a really big department store in general, like in Japan. So they're not like hurting for the sales. Yeah, so if you have a friend that can buy it for you, that's cool. You have a rare ink. Or you can have a friend like me that where I was like, can you send me a sample of this other ink? And then he includes, which is another ink that is really cheap, I should say. And he sent me that, but he also sent me samples of hard to get expensive ink, like this one, and there was another couple in there that were like, okay, sure, thank you. That's really nice. And then I have them. Oh yeah, this has got some nice shading. I wouldn't, it's nice. This falls into the category of inks that it's nice. I don't know if it's $40 a bottle nice and jumping through all those hoops to get the bottle nice. If I happen to find myself in Japan, sure, I'll pick up a bottle. I am not going to like quest for this. That's how I feel about a lot of Bungbox inks. Bungbox is another brand that's a small shop in Japan. Like, unlike Maruzen, where they're like a big, Maruzen is a big like chain of department stores in Japan. Bungubox is a small department store, is a small stationery shop in Japan that happens to have a really good deal with the Sailor Pen Company. So they get like custom exclusive pens, store exclusive inks, like a whole bunch of them, and lots of really good inks. And they actually have agreed to like partner with people in the shops in the US. So the shops in the US will sell the Bungubox inks, but those shops also have to make a profit, so it's more expensive to buy the inks in the US because the US shops have to pay pay Bunga Box for the inks, and then pay to ship them over here, and then they still have to make a profit on the inks. They can't just sell them at cost. So it ends up making those inks very expensive. So stuff like Bunga Box, stuff like Kingdom Note, it's expensive to buy those inks. Some of the colors are really unique and you can't really get them. There's not really like a good like dupe for it. And so you end up paying that $40 a bottle. I'm probably going to end up with a $40 bottle of Bunga Box Lamont at some point. Because that's one of them. But there's other ones where I'm like, yes, this is a nice ink, but it's not $40 nice. Like, there are inks that Bunga Box has where I'm like, if this was $10 a bottle of ink, sure, I would go for it. But it's not $40 a bottle nice. And that's a personal, individual preference if you think it's worth it. Like, for me personally, I'm looking at this ink and I'm like, this is a nice ink. It is not, I think, worth it for me to go through all the rigmarole to get a full bottle. Especially since I do have, like, a full bottle of Robert Oster Blue Denim, which is very similar to this ink. And like I said, I already have a bottle of it. So do I need to, like, go on a hunt for something that a bottle of something that I already have a similar ink? That, like, might not be exactly the same, but it's similar enough. For me, the answer is no. For others, the answer might be yes. It might be different enough that it's worth it. It's up to the person. I don't read Japanese, so I don't know what you just put there. All I know is the one symbol is no. That's how you pronounce that. That's about all I can figure out. And I know it acts as like a linker of words, kind of like de in French. That's all I've been able to suss out from watching anime. Oh, hey, Rutgers. I grew up in New Jersey, so I'm like, oh, look, Rutgers. Rutgers is appearing in my local newspaper. And I don't live in New Jersey anymore, so which is why I'm like, oh, hey, look at that. Rutgers comes up. Even though I'm not, like, actually fond of Rutgers. It's more of a, hey, I know that thing feeling. Oh. Okay. Paragraph. Sorry, I'm not talking. I'm just like, last couple lines, then we can flip it over and see how it works. Because this is the shitty paper, and this is always a crapshoot. Some things are surprisingly good on the shitty paper. Though my handwriting just like went all weird in this. Feathering is about normal on the shitty paper. Let's see what it looks like. That actually has really, like, that's really good for bleed through. Normally, the other inks I reviewed of this color and shade do not perform that well on the shitty paper. So this might be a reason for you to go on a hunt for this ink. It's this shade, but it behaves on shitty paper way better than the other inks of this same like color category and properties. So that might be worth it. Like if you're in a situation where you can only use shitty paper, or you're using shitty paper a lot because, like, I don't know, work forms or like notebooks, or like you can only afford the 1-cent notebook because you are a student. Though if that's the case, I don't know why you'd be paying up the nose for the ink. I don't know. Different priorities, I guess. Oh, that's what... Forgot to write the Athena Eternal Blue on the other side, so we'll go back and fix that. I knew I was forgetting something. I'm like, that fit way too easily on there. Oh, that's from last week. Gotta squish that in better. Okay, and then last we have the Rhodia. I'm gonna take that Heart of Gold stuff out. Yeah, it's just strange. The Heart of Gold just looks so much more orangey and like much more like the swab on the Rhodia than it does on any of the other papers. It's very weird. So let's see what this looks like on the Rhodia. Yeah, no, this is just a lovely, like, I will say this is a damn good ink. Like, I'm not knocking the ink. It's a very good ink. I understand why people like it. I don't understand why people, like, shit themselves over this ink. And I don't think it's worth it to go on the quest for this ink. But it is a damn good ink. I don't know, because I can never remember what color family Vermilion is actually in. I always want to think it's like a greenish yellow, but I want to say Vermilion is like a reddish thing. So let me, after I finish writing this, let me Google what color Vermilion actually is, and I'll be able to tell you that. But I also, so all these ink reviews actually get scanned and posted to my blog, which you can find at that link right there. There's also should be, since you're watching on Twitch, it'll be down, like I have all those links like down in my info section if you're watching on a computer, or if you're on a phone, click over to info. Those links are all there. The scans tend to post about 2 weeks after I do the live stream, because that's just the delay. Like, I like to have like a 2-week lead time between like writing the inks and when they scan. So that way, if I have like life is crazy or something and I can't get to writing the ink reviews, I have a little bit of buffer time built in the posting schedule. But yeah, that's very pretty. So let me go Google what my what Vermilion actually looks like. Because like I said, I can never remember what the color is of Vermilion. Okay, yeah, it is like a red. So, like I said, I can never, like, my brain always makes it so it's like a slightly green yellow, but this might be considered vermilion. I actually did that earlier today. And then I have a whole, oh, nope, it's in this book. So in my swabs, yeah, we can go through what vermilion inks I have. So these are more reds. The Franklin Christoph Ink 17 would probably be a good vermilion. Unfortunately, that was an exclusive ink to the 2017 Philly Pen Show and maybe a little bit after, so you can't get that anymore. Ackerman Dutch Masters number 12 is probably a good one. This is technically limited, but they made a lot of it, so it's still around. You can only get this in giganto bottles, though, and it's expensive. Wild Strawberry, again, might be a good one. Diamond Wild Strawberry. That one also has a little bit of a goldish sheen, so that's a fun color. Then KWZ Grapefruit might be... This actually looks a little bit more orange on the monitor than it is. It's a touch more red in real life. That's actually matching more what I'm seeing on my Google screen. This is actually a color category I'm fairly weak in terms of like the number of inks I have. That and like true reds. I need to get more of those. I have a lot of like, I have a shit ton of oranges. Yellow and gold's not as much. I got so many greens. Green inks are my favorite. I have a shit ton of greens. I have a lot in this like teal, turquoise. I would say this is teal. To me, turquoise is like the stone. Yeah. Also keep in mind that what you're seeing on the webcam, the colors can get a little wonky. So it would be worth it to do a Google of that ink. And like, or maybe if you want to get it, order a sample of it. I always recommend to people, even if you're looking up a bunch of inks and like looking up all different reviews and some. Okay, you have some of it. Okay, cool. Always get samples because, just different, like even if I'm looking at swabs in real life, which I've done, like of different swabs, people bring their swab books and swab cards to pen shows. I can compare the same inks with different swabs and different writing, and it just is different depending on the person. So I always recommend, if you can, get a sample of the ink and try it that way before committing to a bottle, because that's going to tell you how the ink looks for you. Okay, so if Wild Strawberry is a bit too red for you, then KWZ Grapefruit actually might be perfect, because it's a touch more orange than Wild Strawberry, which doesn't come across in this as well, but KWZ Grapefruit might be perfect for you. And then you can see there's just like a jump in my inks. Like vermilion is not a color category I have a lot of. Like I said, reds in general, it's a weak spot in my ink collection, so I need to work on it. That and like black inks, I don't have a lot of black inks because I think black inks are boring. I could use more grays because I like gray inks, but I don't actually have a lot of them. KWZ Grapefruit is one I have reviewed, so let me see if I can bring that up. Cool. Okay, cool. So we're bringing up my, I'm gonna bring up, sorry, gonna try and do that real quick. So let's see. Like I said, I did review. This is going to be better than with the shitty lighting here, doing the KWZ Grapefruit. And you can see all my back end, which I mean, this isn't telling you anything different than what you see on the front end. It's just the WordPress back end. That was one of the first ones I reviewed too. Yeah, so that's a little more accurate in the scan. So I don't know if that fills your need. And that's a good comparison scan for a vermilion ink. I don't have Fugaki. So, like I said, clearly, like, this is it. This is what I got. But I'd recommend ordering a bazillion samples and trying them out. That's what I did for reds, which I mean like a darker red. That's why I have a lot of these samples to find, but that's why I have a lot of these red samples, like pure reds, to find a good red, and I have a shit ton of purples samples because I was looking for an ideal shade of purple. So just get a bazillion samples. Yeah, and that's gonna be your best bet. Yeah. So that's all the inks I was gonna do for today. I usually do about 2 inks per stream. That's the Papier Plume Heart of Gold. And so, yeah, usually I do this on Mondays, but we might be moving to Thursdays. My work schedule has been nutso for the past couple weeks, so it's just been also, I try to have it at a regular time, but it's been all sorts of weird. So I'll update you. We might be permanently moving to Thursdays, though, because when I started doing these Monday ink review streams, my days off were Mondays and Tuesdays, but now my days off are Thursdays and Fridays, so it might be Thursday ink reviews now, so we'll see. Anyway, thank you for joining me, and yeah, have a good weekend and rest of your week and all that fun stuff. Bye!